Hello and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good people of the tube. Today, hope you are feeling grand and all is well in your world. Hello there, everybody. How are you today? Let's get this kind of groove. Oh, it's gone weird. Anyway, hello everybody. Today's vid, everybody, we are going to do a bit of a shootout between the Marshall MG, the Orange CR120, and the Boss Katana Artist. I am very curioso between all the sounds of these amps. So, and also the really cool thing is, I have done shootouts between these amps before. Well, not this one though. I haven't done the Artist in there, and the Artist is a different beast altogether. So, it's going to be interesting today. But the really cool thing about all these three amps is I can run them into the same cab, which will even the playing field. Because I've done shootouts before between like the Marshall and the Orange against, like, say, the other Katana, but the other Katana has an inbuilt speaker. So it'll be very interesting to hear this go through the same cab as these two and see what happens. It'll be very interesting. I'm not going to use any pedals. The pedal board is not going to be plugged into any of the amps. What we're going to do, we're going to go straight in, and I'm going to dial in my cleanish tone, my John Frusciante-esque kind of tone, on the Marshall, the Orange, and the Boss, and we're going to record that, do them back to back, and then I'm going to dial in my distortion sound for Marshall, Orange, and Boss. And then at the end of it, I'm going to give you my final thoughts. And as usual, people of YouTube, I want your thoughts in the comment section below. Which one did you prefer and why? Was it the Marshall? Was it the Orange? And was it the Boss? And if so, which one and why was it that one? I can't speak. But yeah, if it was the Marshall, why did you like it? What was it about it tonally? What was it about the Orange you liked? What was it about the Boss you liked? But I'm very curious to hear, because like I say, it'll all be coming through the SM57 on this lower right speaker, so it'll be very interesting. I think, hopefully, fingers crossed. I hope this will be an interesting video. But like I say, these are my three favourite amps of all time here. The Boss Katanas, the Artist is just like ridiculous. I just adore this thing. The CR120, which again is just ridiculous, and I adore it to bits. And obviously the glorious Marshall MG, which I've adored for the longest time, and I still love incredibly lots. I'm just going to turn that on to mute because it's hissing at me. But yeah, so I'm curious. I'm very curious. So this video came about, I was thinking the other day, I was like, well, which one, what's the difference in sound? So here we are today, people of YouTube. So I hope this is going to be interesting. I'll say anybody who's looking at one of these amps, maybe kind of like, hopefully this will kind of like help guide you in more of a direction of what you want kind of thing, so to say. So, without further ado, I think what we'll do, we'll start with the Marshall, then we'll go to the CR, and then we'll do the Katana. So it'll be Marshall, cleanish, Orange, cleanish, Boss, cleanish, I can't speak anymore. Then we'll do Marshall distortion, Orange distortion, and then Boss in full distortion as well. And I'd be very, very curious to hear it back to see how it how they stack against each other. It'd be very interesting, I think. So, without further doodles, let's get on with this. So, like I say, Marshall first, cleanish tone, John Frusciante kind of thing. I'm going to use my white Strat for this, because that's the sound I know. I'm going to use the bridge. I'm going to use the neck pickup for cleanish, and I'm going to use the bridge pickup for distortion. So, let's go. Okay, people of the tube, there you go. That's the 3 sound examples of cleanish and distortion through the Marshall, the Orange, and the Boss. Okay, so I've just had a listen back. Like I say, people of the tube, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, because I really want to know what you think as well. To me, when I plugged the Boss into this cab, the low end went through the roof. There was far too much boom. You know, there's far too much bass. I mean, in all fairness, that's verging on territory where you're going to disappear in a mix. But, that's because I'm running it through this cab. And I'm running 4 speakers instead of the internal. When I run this on the internal speaker, that low end is where it needs to be, because I actually have the bass turned to max. So the bass is on 10 on the Katana, whereas the bass on the CR120 and the MG was on 0. And in all fairness, I maybe should have thought about that, but it didn't dawn on me until I listened back to it, and I was like, ah. But I don't really want to go I don't really want to go changing the bass on this, because if I'm going to use this amp, I'm going to use the internal speaker. I'm not really going to plug it into an external cab. I wanted to do it today just to hear it tonally. But I will say straight off the bat that this had far too much low end when running into this cabinet. So I've made it like a mental note. If I ever run this into like a 412 again, I will turn the bass all the way off, because there is far too much of it. But other than that, tonally, you know, because, you know, big whoom aside on the big beast here, tonally there wasn't a great deal in it, I don't think, personally. I mean, on the clean tone especially, cleanish tone, should I say, I would say the Orange was darker, the Marshall was probably the brightest, and in the middle was the Boss, with, you know, the Boss was kind of like a middle, like the Marshall was the high end, and the CR120 was the low end. My God, can you imagine what this would sound like if you could run all 3, and you could have the Marshall as the high, the Boss as the mid, and the Orange as the big bass sound. One day, please. That'd be immense. Anyway, but yeah, so let's talk cleanish tone. So tonally, I don't think there was a great deal in it cleanish wise. I think the distortion was where there was differences. There was definitely kind of not necessarily night and day, but there definitely was differences. Cleanish wise, tonally they sounded very similar. I would say, like I say though, the Marshall was brighter, and in all fairness, I would say the Marshall was the most balanced. On the cleanish, like, you know, you could, you know, I know because I had the bass cranked on the Boss, it was a bit iffy, but you can still hear the tonality, and, like, you know, if you mentally get rid of that low end, you can kind of hear that they're very, very, very similar. I would say these two are the closest together, with the Orange being a little bit out on its own, with being a bit darker. But there wasn't much in it tonally, I don't feel, cleanish wise. They both sound good, but I do feel the Marshall MG had a little bit more kind of like unity in its bass, mid, and highs. The orange was a little bit too dark in the highs. It had a really nice bass response, really nice mid response, which is what it does gorgeously. But there was no real highs there, and I'm very hesitant to turn the treble up on the orange. I don't like treble, as most of you will know now. So I don't. Yeah, I did mess around with it beforehand just to see, and I just hate it. I just can't use it at all. It's just gross. So, but what I did, well, I'll tell you the EQ settings in a sec. But like I say, I just found the orange a little bit darker than the Marshall and the Boss, but still awesome sounding amplifier. Same as all these three. These are my favourite amps, just bar none. And this video has just cemented it even more in my brain of how much I adore these amps so much. They are just perfect. You know, this is the Boss guitar is definitely my perfect amplifier. The way the artist works with it, with the K switch, and you know, just the way it is with all the effects built into it, that is my perfect amp. But all these sound, they all sound amazing. Okay, so anyway, that aside, so cleanish wise, don't feel as much in it. Distortion wise, I felt there was like, you know, it wasn't night and day like I say, but it was a difference. So the Marshall again was very bright and very cutting, but very warm and big all at the same time. So that was ace. The orange was just this big wall of beast. It was an absolute monster. And it's got the CR120's got this kind of grind in the sound that I absolutely love, and it's just in this amp, and not in those two amps, and not in any other amp I've ever played. It's in this amp, and it's one of the reasons why I love it so much, especially when you crank the gain. There's just a to it. It's just like yes. It's just like that. But again, darker sound than the Marshall. The Marshall was definitely more cutting. The CR was definitely bigger, fatter, and kind of like sat a bit further back, but it still had cut, which was nice. And then the Boss, which was just rich and smooth and gorgeous, and I love it to bits. So yeah, if you were looking at any of these amps, you can't go wrong with any of them. You really can't. MG, CL120, Boss Katana, even the standard Katanas as well. You can't go wrong with any of them. I would have put the 50 in the mix as well, but it doesn't have an external out speaker thing, so I can't really run it through a cab, unfortunately. But these amps are perfect. They really are perfect. I mean, I've gigged so much with that one. I've gigged so much with that one. I haven't even had a chance to gig with that one yet because of this weirdo year we're living in. But hopefully when I get to gig this thing, it'll be a merry day, and I'm really looking forward to it. But honestly, though, you can't really go wrong with any of these. They all sound amazing. The most versatile out of all of them is the Boss. No ifs, no buts, no maybes, no nothing. This is the most versatile amp here. This is the most versatile amp I own, full stop. Just as a standalone amplifier, this is the most versatile amp. CR120 is extremely versatile as well, especially with the dirty channel. You can get all sorts out of that thing. Same thing with the Marshall. You know, you can get all sorts of different tones out of it. But this is a different level, which, you know, technically you'd think it should be, because it's newer. You know, this is from 2005. That's from 2014 maybe 2013. The CR. So newer technology. You know, it's digital. It's gonna be more advanced than these two, but these still hold their own next to it. It's just that this has got the versatility factor, especially with stuff like the K switch, the Tone Studio, all the savable presets, all the bells and whistles this thing's got. It just has the leg up on that. So if you have the versatility and a plethora of different kind of guitar tones at a foot switch, and you not have to dial them in on an amplifier, then the Boss Katana artist, or Boss Katana in general, the standard 100 or 50, then that's where you want to be going. The CR and the Marshall are very versatile as well, but you have to physically dial them in. You can't obviously save presets. So if you want a different sound, you have to manipulate the amp. You can't just save it on channel 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 6, or 7, or 8. You have to physically dial that in. So most versatile, definitely. Because I know somebody would ask, if I had to pick one out of these three, which one would it be? Now that is a question I'm not going to answer. Because I don't think I can. I'm a bit terrified of answering that kind of question because as much as this is the perfect amp, and I think if you put a gun to my head, I would go Boss. That was a wince. Did you see the wince? Just simply because of its versatility, the way it works. This is perfect. This is a perfect amplifier. But this is perfect, and that's perfect as well, but in a different way. But what I would like is a hybrid of all three, because I really like the distortion channel and the cleanish side of the Marshall, but I like the low end and the fat grr of the Orange, but I like the Boss in general. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's nothing I don't like about this. Whereas CL120, I hate the clean channel. I think clean channel's pretty much, it's not useless, it's good, but I don't like it. It's far too clean, I don't like it, and especially don't like the way it breaks up. It just doesn't work for me. But the dirty channel, perfect. I mean, in all fairness, I see the CL120 as a single channel amplifier. I don't see it as two channels. I just don't even think about the clean channel anymore. In all fairness, it can go away for all I care. I'd be very happy with just the dirty channel, reverb, and a volume on this thing. I wouldn't care less about the clean channel on there. It doesn't bother me at all. Marshall MG, I love the clean channel. I love the crunch channel. I love OD1, OD2. I love the reverb. I love the inbuilt effects. It's just immense. But if you were to put a gun to my head, the Boss Katana just has that next level, that leg up, if you will, because of its versatility and the way it works and the fact that I can have all this stuff on a foot switch. There you go. Phone ding. You know, and again, and it's, you know, it's half the size of, you know, taking a 412 cab. It's better onto your back. The artist is heavy, but, you know, it's not ridiculous. You know, you got all the bells and whistles. You got a line out. You got effects loops. You got, you know, this has got everything you need, and it sounds immense. You know, I mean, you would go a long way to find sounds in this thing that just like sound bad, if you know what I mean. It just sounds immense. I would say with stuff with the Tone Studio, I could go to a gig with any one of these amps and plug straight in and be a happy bunny, but I'd be happiest with this because of certain things, you know, effects, all sorts of other stuff, and I don't need anything else kind of thing. Whereas with the Marshall and the Orange, I'd be missing certain aspects, like, you know, effects and stuff like that, and I like the options. And it's the ultimate backup amp as well. If you're using pedal board through this at a gig and your pedal board dies, you know, if you carry like one of the K switches and you have it programmed, you could literally just get rid of your pedal board, put the K switch down, and away you go again. You know what I mean? With the Marshall and that, with the Orange, you're going to have to compromise somewhere there. It's not going to, what's the word? It's not going to, you know, you're just going to have to compromise. You don't have to compromise with the Boss, you know. So if I was to pick, I would have to pick the Boss. That's really hard to say because I adore my MG. I will always love my MGs to bits. I really will. This one is ridiculous. The other two I've got at home back in England are just gorgeous. CR120, I'll always love it as well. But there are certain things on the CR that need improving. I don't feel the MG needs improving. I don't feel the Boss needs improving. I feel the CR120 could... Dirty channel, no improvement. Reverb, no improvement. Volume, no improvement. Clean channel, needs improvement, if that makes any sense. You know, a mid-range dial and the ability to kind of like crunch up the clean channel to where you want it, and like, you know, like the MG here, like, so you've got gain, bass, middle, and treble. So you've got the ability, instead of just having volume, bass, and treble, it's very limiting clean channel. And I don't like the way it takes pedals and stuff like that. I know people love the clean channel, and some people love it, but for me, it just doesn't do it. And it falls short next to the clean channels on the Marshall and the Boss. Definitely falls short. Anyway, people of the tube, like I say, you can't go wrong with any of these three. It's just, if you're after versatility, Boss. If you're after full out Marshallness, Marshall. If you want that grind, then Orange. You know what I mean? They all do what they do perfectly. You know what I mean? There's not one thing there's not one time I don't plug into these amps and go, oh. I was playing through my Orange the other day, all day. I must have been playing through it for about 10 hours. I was playing through this for about 10 hours. I was in a very, very bad place mentally, and I kind of locked myself away, which was very silly of me. But I locked myself away, and I was playing on this amp for like 10 hours straight. And literally, every time I plug into it, I am just reminded of why I love it. And I like the fact that I forget how much I love it until I play through it again, if that makes any sense. Because it's a nice kind of like, oh! And the same thing with that and the MG. In all fairness, I always go to the MG. I don't know. Yeah, I just draw on that way. It's where my ear lives. But anyway, that aside. But yeah, amazing amps, everybody. Let me know what you heard. Let me know which one you preferred in the comment section below. And also, just take in consideration that I forgot about the bass being cranked on the Boss. So when you hear the Boss samples, the sound examples, remember, the bass should be lower. It's fine when it's going through the internal speaker. When you're going through a 412 cab, I should have turned it down. I just didn't think. But anyway, but tonally you can still hear it's very, very cool sound. So, quickly, before I go, let me tell you the EQ I had on each amp. So, for the clean-ish tone on the Marshall, I had the gain at 4, bass was at 0, middle was at 0, treble was at 0, contour was at 0, and I had volume on 10. Reverb was on 2, so 9 o'clock, and I had the master volume at 9 o'clock as well on the MG. Moving over to the CR120, we just used the dirty channel again. We didn't use the clean channel. Volume was on 10 on the dirty channel. Treble was on 0. For the cleanish tone, I had middle on 1, so basically kind of like there, so about 7 o'clock. No bass. Bass was turned all the way down, and I had the gain on 4. That was where that was set. I also had reverb on 2, so again 9 o'clock, and I had the master volume on 3, 10 o'clock on the master volume. Distortion on the CR120 was volume on 10. Treble on 0, middle on 0, bass on 0, gain all the way up on 10. Reverb didn't change and volume didn't change. So moving down to the Boss Katana, this has got a bit more bells and whistles. So clean-ish tone. I had it on the brown mode. I had the gain turned all the way down, channel volume all the way up, bass all the way up, no mid, no treble, so middle and treble were turned all the way down. Reverb was about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and it's a spring, so you might hear the splishy splashiness. And I had the master volume just a smidgen above 9 o'clock. And for distortion-wise, all I did was activate the booster mod, which was just like a turbo overdrive or something like that it's called. I don't know. But it's just a big, fat distortion tone, but it just sits over the top of that EQ that I just mentioned, basically. And that's it. So, again, my weirdo settings of never having middle and treble and bass, really. But, that's where that sound lives in me. So, yeah. Like I say, people, let me know where we are. That's really dusty. Look at that. It's disgusting, Dave. Clean your amp, boy. Let me know which one you preferred and why. And I'll see you again very soon for another vid. Everybody have a great morning, afternoon, and a good evening. And I'll see you again very soon for another one. Yes, goodbye now. Thank you for watching. Ha ha! Goodbye now.